Good day, everyone. Welcome to the first installment of our three-part Career Talk series in Southwestern University FINMA School of Design plus Communication. For this series, we're calling it The Road Less Traveled, The Next Mile, to signify Southwestern University FINMA's expansion from a university known for its health programs to eventually exploring artistic pursuits. In SD plus C, we believe that every design tells a story, and we integrate design thinking and storytelling in our architecture, communications, and senior high school arts and design track programs. For our first episode, I am joined by three established creatives and storytellers in the graphic design and multimedia industry. To get us started, I'd like everyone to meet our first guest, Miss Govinda Trazo. She has been in the design industry for over 20 years, from designing for local ad agencies to art directing in international design firms to eventually starting her own business. Raising four boys, motherhood is always her priority, but also the fuel to further explore creative endeavors. Hello, Govinda.
Hello, Gabe. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. So, I've been in the design industry for over 20 years now. I'm a graduate of fine arts, major in advertising arts back in 2001. So that's a very long time ago. Back when social media was still MySpace and Friendster. Anybody knows that? Anyway, so after graduation, I jumped working right away into top ad agencies here in Cebu. So as a fresh graduate, I was loving every minute of it, the challenges, and then my career shifted to web. I started web designing using um, HTML and Flash. That was 2002 for 3 years. And also, I've also tried working abroad in Dubai for about a year. Um, we were focusing on print now, so from web, and then I shifted to print. And then when I came back to the Philippines, my career focused on marketing now. It's um, marketing collaterals and all those stuff. So I mean the design industry has already shifted from very crude and now very customer focused. So and then after that, in 2016, I became an art director in Ripe Concepts. It's a big design agency here in Cebu. We've catered international brands. um, Also, I just wanna tell you about some of my highlights in my career. I didn't really get to win awards, but I think some of my highlights involved in when as a fresh graduate, and then uh, an ad agency called Ogilvy and Mattar, which was a big deal for me before, called up to me and said wanted to meet me even if they weren't hiring. And and that moment when you know a big ad agency come up to you as a fresh grad saying this is a good portfolio, even if we're not hiring, but we want to speak to you and we know you are very interesting. So that is kind of a big check mark, that you're in a right path, that you just have to go on and do what you can. And then later in that part, as he as a creative director, we've been tasked to do some trend report, and so we were sent out to Hong Kong to do some field research. So it was a big deal for me because um, trend reports are not just being researched in your desktop. It was fun when you had to go to another place and really immerse yourself in the culture of the Hong Kong design scene. So it was good. And also for my um, little business right now, Woody's, GoDaddy, the international you know, international company has spotted us, and they came here to do an interview. And right now, it was a right now goodies have been used as a marketing collateral for GoDaddy, so that's also a big deal for me. So um, I I really like where my path is going, since I can be of service to others through this innate gift. And you might not be a doctor or a grand architect or something, but at least for this, the love for giving out creative solutions to brands and companies. That's really fulfilling for me. So yeah, it's a short story for me. Thank you, Gabe.
Thanks, Govinda. And yeah, I think every creative feels those jitters know when a big company or a brand reaches out to them. It's a scary and nerve-wracking experience. But I don't think that feeling ever really goes away, even after a few years. Anyway, to our viewers and listeners, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the comment section on Facebook. We'll have our guests answer them after the discussion, of course. So, moving on, to share his insights, we have Mr. Emot Amodia, the founder and art director of Emottoons Animation Studio, where he employs more than a dozen creatives for international clients. He is also the former president of the Cebu Animations Guild and is currently a Huyon evangelist. Huyon, for non-graphic designers like me, is a company that specializes in pen displays and tablets for digital art, if I'm not mistaken. Hello, Emot.
That's correct, Gabe. Thank you, Gabe, for the introduction. I think you have said everything, so I'll just add on to that. I'm Emot. I'm from Lapu-Lapu. I'm a 2D animator. I graduated BS Architecture in University of Visayas, and then I was able to pursue my dream as an artist, a digital artist, when I started working in Bigfoot. That's way back 2003. Actually, I was working with Govinda with the same company. And then after 2006, there were a Korean company here looking for animators. And during that time, there's no such thing as animators in Cebu yet. So what they did is they're looking for uh, illustrators, and we were trained for 6 months. And then after that, we've been doing 2D animations for the Korean company for almost 5 years. And then after 2008, the company stopped, and we were left with no work. So during that time, I was teaching in UC as a 2D mentor. And then after 2010, when my students graduated, they asked me if they can do OGT, because during that time I was doing freelancing, and freelancing on that time, way back 2010, it's still very new. So that's where I started my own studio called Emottoons, because my students are the one asking me if they can do OGT on my freelance work. So I said, okay, come over to our house. If you can see, this is part of this is beside our house. This is where we started. Used to be our dining table before, and then we converted it to a studio. So from there, way back 2010, we started really from scratch. And even to the point that I started my studio without a single peso capital. I just borrowed a computer from my sister who works for a bank, because a computer that time is quite expensive. So I just used that after work, because I still have a day job during that time, and work freelance at night. So until such time, 2014, I decided to register our studio and focus on the studio. So in 2014, Emottoons Studio became a government registered studio here in Cebu. And then I'll be showing you some of our works and our demo reel in our studio. project called Fate of My People in partnership with the Cebu City government. And hopefully we'll be releasing this by December this year. The Battle of Mactan. This is another project we had for a US client. It's for a series. It's a trailer actually. Snoop Dogg was part of the main character for this project. The series is called Weeds. This one is for another client, Oracle Japan. So we've created a few animations for their internal HR. And this is actually our very first animation project. Still Oracle, but Oracle Singapore. We've created marketing videos for them last year. Another trailer for a possible series for a client, a US client called Harmony. This one is a short project. We did a TV commercial for Qatar and our client Fly In here in Cebu. This one is for a game, and our client is from Argentina. Another project we had for China. It's a book. This one is for an Indian client. We've created hundreds of backgrounds for them. Concept designs for some of our projects here. Another client from the US. It's just a short cartoon. This one is a local project of ours. We've been working for animations for DTI and DOST. This one's for DTI Region 7. A YouTuber called Storybook Song. We've been working for them for 5 years already, making short songs for kids. And that's our website, Emottoons.com. And I wanted to add also, we're also the people behind History Animated. We just started this year, so we were able to produce 4 videos. Lapu-Lapu, the Battle of Mactan, Origin of Lapu-Lapu, and the Ferdinand Magellan animations. But we're still producing more videos in the future. So I'll stop share, and that's all for me. Thank you, Gabe.
Thanks, Emot. Thanks for that inspiring talk. It's always inspiring, again, to hear of success stories of fellow creatives pursuing their dreams and excelling professionally. And that video was impressive too. I love Snoop Dogg. Well, once again, for our viewers and listeners, don't hesitate to ask any questions in our stream. Simply comment on the stream itself, and then we can accommodate those after all of the discussion. Now, last but not the least, we have Mr. Yasser Mattar. He's a lifelong educator and experienced educational manager who has been in the academe since the year 2000. He is a Doctor of Philosophy from the Australian National University and currently serves as the academic manager of First Media Design School in Singapore. He was part of the team that created the inaugural Singapore Armed Forces game-based learning project entitled Decisive Combat. He has published 13 international peer-reviewed journals as well. Hello, Yasser.
Hi, Gabe. Thanks for having me here today. Let me share my screen, and today I'm going to talk to you about the global design industry. All right. So, what about the global design industry, right? Okay. Now, a recent survey has shown that print design is going down in demand and popularity, while branding, digital marketing, and UI UX design is actually increasing. There's a whole bunch of global design statistics in this regard. We know that America is the largest design market because it takes about 30.6% of the global market demand in terms of design. It is forecasted to grow globally. Yeah, the global design industry is forecasted to grow to the number of 249.5 billion US dollars over in the next 2 years. Okay, now what about the annual salaries? There are four countries in comparison here that I've put up on my screen. Let's take a look at them. Across all four countries, we see that the highest salaries are for digital designers and for digital marketers, right? Both in Singapore, the Philippines, America, as well as the United Kingdom. Graphic designers are suffering a little bit of a lesser pay than digital designers and digital marketers. Well, what does this mean for us? Well, this means that graphic designers have to step away from print design and go into digital design, especially UI UX design and digital marketing. Okay, so the typical career path for a designer is that a designer would either go into becoming a senior designer, whereby he will lead projects, or he will become an accounts manager, whereby he will be managing the projects, also known as a project manager. All right. Now, from there, the senior designer often goes off to become an art director or a creative director for a larger portion of the organization. The accounts manager will move on to become a project director, overseeing several projects at once. Now, recent trends show that art directors often end up becoming design trainers. All right, they now have started to come into education to impart skills of design, whether it be in typography or in photography or in graphic design, right? To students moving ahead. Okay, so for young people who are graduating, right? What For young people who are graduating, what choices do you have? All right. So, in general, there are four choices that you can have, career choices. You could join an agency whereby you'll be working as a designer for an agency, basically for clients. There are also those designers who join creative process outsourcing agencies, whereby you work on a relatively remote scale and you serve international clients. There are other designers who start up their own design studios and design agencies, but an increasing amount of designers are actually going into in-house design. There are many organizations in F&B, in pharmaceuticals, even in the military, who are looking for designers to work within those industries. All right. Now, as a designer, mm, what are some of the challenges or what are some of the processes that you need to take, right? Okay, so as a designer, we must always bear in mind our users. And as graduates, when we graduate from a design school, our users are primarily our clients. Now, sometimes our clients know exactly what they want. In this case, they'll tell you exactly what they want, and they're going to commission something that they want from you. Um, at, at other times, the client doesn't always exactly know what they want. Now, what do we do in this regard? As a designer, we must first understand the brand. If the client doesn't know what they want, we need to go ahead and be proactive in understanding the brand. We then need to identify what are some of our design problems. How can we design a solution that fits the brand? We then need to assess the design scope and breadth, how much we need to do, how deep we need to go, and then we go and design the prototype. All right. Our prototype must always align with the brand. All right. And with this alignment of the brand, we seek the client's approval and we design further collaterals for the client. So this creative process is something that we need to be aware about. No matter where we go, when we graduate from a design school, we need to always be aware that this is how the process should be. All right. Now, where do you go from here? Do you just find a job as a designer and that's the end of it? I recommend not. I recommend that you do one of two things, or if you can, do both. You should either deepen your skill set in design by looking at how you can actually improve and find more tips and tricks, more techniques to use in your area of design, or to expand your skill set by learning about more design principles that were not taught to you in school, learning about design trends that are going ahead, moving forward. There will be different design trends. Some design trends will come back and some design trends will go out of style. All right. You should also build your own portfolio in order to showcase what you can do, as well as finding out about what are some of the emerging designs that are taking place so that you can partake in them. All right. I will kind of end my presentation here with an alumni spotlight from First Media Design School, Singapore. The alumni spotlight today shines on our alumni, Steve. Now, in 2011, Steve was a student here at First Media Design School. In 2014, he went over to the University of West England where he did his bachelor's degree. He found a job that very year after graduation at Fox Lab. In the next 2 years, he moved on to a more senior role at Tribox. He finally went back to, he then went over to DXC Technology in another couple of years in 2018. And then in 2020, after reaching a certain level in his career, he came back to First Media Design School to become one of our design lecturers. All right. So this is a career path that fits the career path that I kind of showed to you earlier. And what Steve did was that Steve was trained in graphic design, visual communications, but he picked up skills in multimedia and UI UX design, enabling him to command higher pay and a higher position in the different companies that he went towards. And then he decided to come back to education and become a design trainer. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. Thank you very much. That was my presentation on the global design industry with a focus on a story of Steve from First Media Design School. Thank you very much. Over back to you, Gabe.
Thank you so much for that data-heavy presentation. Yes, sir. It's always insightful to, of course, know where the graphic design and multimedia industry is headed, especially in an extremely interconnected world, as evidenced by your case study earlier. So again, thank you. And thank you once again also to our previous speakers, Govinda and Emot. Very insightful learnings today. Now we're at the point where we can freely discuss all of the things we learned, right? I think. Now, I have a question for each one, actually. This is more of a personal question. Were there any barriers that kept you from becoming your true creative self? Maybe Govinda could answer first.
Barrier. Not. I couldn't think of any because I think we've always been flowing to where our path is leading us to. For example, maybe when I started in Bigfoot, I have no idea about web designing, right? But it didn't really occur to me that it's a barrier or something. So when I applied, I said I have no idea what web designing is, but I'm willing to learn, and I have this ultra love for learning, and you have that in me. So no worries, sir. You have to hire me. It's something like that. So I think no, I couldn't say. Maybe Emot could share some of his barriers.
Sure. On my end, um, before we reach uh, a certain part of our studio, we've been struggling since the very beginning. So I think sometimes those challenges, there's a saying that diamonds are made by under high pressure. And if you're struggling, uh, that also means that uh, you're trying to create a diamond for yourself. So I always try to see the positive side. Like for example, when we were starting, we weren't making money for the first 5 years, and then I realized we're doing it wrong. So as we try to correct our process, and we're starting making earning studio and keep growing. And to be honest with you, we've been making money for the past 3 years lang. So um, a lot of challenges was we faced here in the studio, but those challenges also make us better.
Thank you, Emot. What about you, Yasser? Any maybe also something from all of the students in the design school?
Sure. All right. So my students report that the main barrier to their creativity is the client's requirements. From a very realistic perspective, when students graduate from a design school, they want to explore a very experimental side of their design. They want to explore things like fusion design, by fusing different design schools, art schools together, novo art with a little bit of cubism or 80s style with 60s style, something like that. But more often than not, the clients, depending on the industry in which they're designing for, the clients already have a very set idea as to what they want to do. All right. So, for example, one of my students who actually found a job in the F&B industry, he had to work mainly with red because in Singapore the F&B industry loves shades of red and tints of red. He primarily had to do promotional posters. So he did food photography and kind of like created posters based on the new menus and all that stuff. Whereby deep inside him, he kind of really wanted to go all out, real experimental kind of stuff. In another instance in FNB as well, there was one pretty famous Western food outlet in Singapore. It has since closed down, but it at one time had about 16 outlets across Singapore, which is actually quite a lot because Singapore is small. At one point, they did allow very creative marketings, a lot of play on words, a lot of pop culture references. But since the ownership changed hands, it kind of became, nope, this is our menu, create a promotional poster, put the price, put a discount. That's it. So yeah, essentially kind of like the demands of the industry, the demands of the client kind of tend to stifle creativity a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Well, actually, that kind of transitions to my next question, which you also mentioned mentioned earlier during your talk, Yasser. How do you deal with clients who have a different vision from yours? And I know you mentioned earlier it's all about going back to what the brand is, right? But I also I'd love to hear from Govinda and Emot on personal experiences when they just didn't see eye to eye with the client's aesthetics over theirs. Maybe Emot can share first.
Uh, yes, Gabe. Actually, every client is different. So I think part of the success of our studio is how we take care of our client, and I have to give credit to my wife on that because I'm handling more on the production side, and my wife resigned at her job way back 2004 and
Mm,
make this into a business. She's really more on the admin side,
PR.
customer support side. So um, maybe just an insight how we've done it in the studio is that sometimes dealing with different clients or troubled clients, uh, we try to cater what they need and then just give them what they want. But after that project, we tried not to work with them again. But the point there is we still give them the better service because at the end of the day, you don't have to burn bridges because in business, connections is very important.
Okay, thank you, Emot. What about you, Govinda?
Okay. The secret there really is when you are starting, like for example, a fresh graduate or you're still new to the workplace, you still have this personal attachment to an artwork or a project. So you kind of feel like giving it, a personal touch of yours. But the reality really is, it's not about you. The designer should know that it's about your clients or to them. So in case they have a different direction of what they're going to, and then you feel like, no, it should be this way. The secret there is to meet them halfway. So you present them, this is what you wanted, but hey, take a look at this. I have this better option. Maybe you could take a look. Maybe this is better. And then if she says, yeah, I think that's a great part, or we could mix it together. And so now you've solved your client's problem, and at the same time, you've also met, you've helped them reach their proper way of doing what you think is good. Because since you are the professional, right? They come to you because you're the designer. You have to take part in saying that you know what you're doing, but not really hitting their ego. So yeah, it's kind of like that.
So it's a continuous more a push pull, no? It's
Mm,
really just finding the golden mean of what you want as a creative and what the clients want.
or
Okay.
yes.
I have another question. I think maybe Yasser would be most appropriate to answer this. But Yasser, how do you feel about crunch culture? And this is, I think, common for all types of creatives, not just for graphic designers and multimedia, right? Even for public relations.
Yes. Okay. Well, now let's.
It can be polarizing. I think some
Yes.
people, yeah, they
Yes,
think.
yes. Some people are pro it, some people are against it. Now, let me tell you a story first. I conducted a management retreat about late last year for a client of First Media Design School, and the CEO was happy to tell me that he has all his staff on an always on mode. That means the crunch is always ongoing. You can be contacted after hours, weekends, whatsoever. And he insists, he is adamant that his staff are happy to do it as well. All right. And, he's always saying, it's just a change in mindset. You just need to be ready to answer any call anytime because, your dedication to the company. Now, he was of the belief that everyone was happy to do this. And when I spoke to the rest of the staff, no, they weren't happy to do that, right? They weren't happy that there was no delineation between work and time, work-life balance. So in terms of a crunch culture, for me, I think that the crunch culture should not be there. Personally, I feel that there shouldn't be a crunch culture, because if your company has too many crunches, too many projects which are squeezed towards the back, what that means is that your project manager, your accounts manager, hasn't calculated the work breakdown structure very well. It means that the resource allocation hasn't been done very well. In project management, we've got these floats, these leads, and these lag times that we can calculate in order to create buffers, so that the one task doesn't bleed into another, right? And the deadline, the final deadline, doesn't get pushed too far back, doesn't get pushed back at all, right? So I think that crunch culture should not be something that people should be proud of. Rather, it's a bit of a uh, they should rather improve on their project management skills, so that crunch culture could be minimized as little as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Yasser. What about Govinda and Emot? Your own experiences with crunch culture.
Um, okay, I think that crunch culture is inevitable. I think due to our technology, before, when you are when you have received an email, it's not expected that you would reply right away, right? But now, if you haven't replied just one day, you would be like, I'm gonna follow up. What's it gonna have you responded to me? So I think now that the technology is faster, I think, and also the skills have been expanded among designers. So I think the more you have, the faster you get. I mean, projects get into you also. So I think it's not good for sure, because in the long run um, you'd be overworked. But it's a more of time management, and as what Yasser said, it's more of a the skill set of a project manager's idea. Maybe we could help that out. But personally, for the designer, I think she should be able to um, manage her own time wisely and not, overwork herself out. So yeah.
That's true, and I especially agree with the change of landscape, especially in the pandemic, where
Hmm.
the personal and work life lines are so blurred. Right?
Yeah, for
Probably there only one na karon.
yeah.
What about you, Emma? What are your insights on
My
this?
thoughts on that is I have to agree to both of them. So it's still the same story. For us, as since we started from zero up, one of the things that the main reason why we won't be able to reach our target or the deadlines because of mismanagement. So right now, that is something we've learned in a very hard way. There are clients that they didn't pay us,
Mm,
so because we missed the target. So and by doing that, we make sure we have daily targets. Each of the artists have daily targets. If within the day they didn't meet the target, we meet with them. What's their problem? Because at least if there is just 1 day delay, we can still fix it, rather than a week or a month delay. Then that's unfixable, and we will lose client for that. So I think management is very important in meeting deadlines.
okay, thank you. Now this question, next question would be more directed to Govinda and Emot. What's the plight for arts in Visayas? If I were a senior high school graduate who is thinking of pursuing arts or graphic arts, is it a lucrative move for me to do in Visayas at the least?
Emma, you want to start first?
Yeah, I'll do that. Actually, in the animation industry, I can only speak for the 2D side. Um, Animation is quite a booming industry. In fact, in Manila, there are they have problems with talent. One of the problems actually is that most of the artists are now going into freelancing rather than working for studios. In fact, um, Toon City has been talking to Cebu Chamber, and currently for last year and this year, I'm part of the CBM 2021 working committee. So there are plans of companies from Manila to invest here in Cebu. But I was asked, what's the problem? The problem really is there's no doubt there's a lot of talented artists here. It's just that the standard they're looking for are not something. Um, it's more of like a high standard skill that they're looking for, because some of the companies who wants to invest here is Toon City, and their projects are Disney, Warner Brothers. And to be honest with you, I was able to work for a subcon projects for Synergy 88, the makers of from the animation, was that Barangay Basketball, and but it's for a different project. In fact, we were working for a storyboard project at that time. The project is just too high, skill sets is too high, that our work didn't even pass. So they told me that if you want to keep working with our project, we need to train your people. If you can go to Manila, I said, and I have to cover all the expenses. I said, that's not possible. I don't have the funds to do that. So in reality, that's always been the problem. That's why CAG is doing, in partnering with DTI, we're doing the Animate Saturday to link the bridge from the for the industry and education. CAG wanted to create a sharing community. So every once a month, we invite artists from animators from the industry, and we're not even looking just in Cebu. We're looking at Manila as well, so that they can also transfer the technology here in their process as well. And here in our studio, we've been doing some trainings as well. We were just so happy that Sir Hardy Gamboa is doing masterclass for us, because we want to compete with the market. And if you want to compete with the market, you have to also learn the standard of the industry. Uh, but in terms of demands, actually there's quite a lot. Um, I think I hope I answered your question.
That's what we want to hear. There is a demand. Okay. What about you, Miss Govinda?
Yes, for sure there is. When I'm working at Ripe Concepts, the demands would shoot from, there's a kind of a ramp up where they would hire even students just so they could fill in the gaps of the client. So, and afterwards, after those guys that have been inside that ramp up, they would pinpoint which guys that would go full time for Ripe Concepts. So it's really, there is a demand for a lot of young designers out there, but we don't want to scare fresh graduates or young designers out there that, okay, what are my skills? I mean, these big companies work with big brands, so they shouldn't be scared if their skill set are just at a minimum, or even college, is what Emot was saying, like an average skill set, because um, the company would really shoulder the your learnings, and whatever project that's been dumped to you, that's going to be taken care of the rest of your senior designers or whoever. So they should just go and apply or whatever. If they go with freelance, then that's a better choice also. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Govinda. My next question, second to the last, actually. I would love to know some data on this. If you could provide also, Yasser. Probably not just the Philippines, but neighboring Southeast Asian countries as well. Do you do the majority of undergraduate design and multimedia courses hit the competencies that are needed to compete globally?
Yes, they do. And in fact, in some areas, we surpass
Oh, wow.
the requirements overseas. Now, for example, what are we talking about here? For example, cultural sensitivity. All right. But in terms of cultural sensitivity, a lot of the Western designers, they know only one culture, which is theirs. Now, the rest of us in Southeast Asia, that is to say, those of us who have been colonized before, we know at least two cultures, right? Our own traditional culture, as well as the culture of our colonial masters in the past. And therefore, we were able to actually create design works that could cater to both markets, as well as kind of like to a more fusion market. And why I'm saying this is because, for example, around the neighboring regions, we get in Malaysia, we get the ethnic Chinese people in Malaysia creating designs that are either very ethnically Chinese for their own community, or they create designs, especially for their festive seasons, that are kind of fusion between their ethnic culture as well as the majority culture of Malaysia, which is the Malays. And furthermore, they've got this new styles of emerging modern Chinese designs, designs which kind of, you know, it's distinctively Chinese, but it's not traditional in the sense that it is more, there is more movement in the design. It is less pattern based. It is a lot of it is actually based on a contrast and emphasis. So we've got these soft skills, a lot of it that actually surpasses, I think, what is present in the global arena.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add from Govinda or Emot, or does it reflect the same sentiments?
I can only say for the 2D animation side, but unfortunately, I don't have data on that, so no comment for now.
Okay. Well, before we go to our last question, we actually have a question from one of our students in SD plus C, from Ethan Darrow. He asks, and this is directed to Miss Govinda. How did Govinda become an art director? I'm interested to pursue the same career.
Most of the younger designers always ask that. That's true. When we were young, we always look at positions, right? I used to teach in University of San Carlos before, and then one of my students, when he graduated, he applied to me, so it was a good feeling. But then weeks after, he talked to me, how can I, same question, how can I reach to that position you have now, miss? And so I told him, this is what I'm going to tell you, that let the position shouldn't be your goal. I know that we always look forward to, a nice position and a nice job, but it shouldn't be your goal. Just make sure that every day you decide to become the best designer that you can be. Like, all of your projects should be the best artwork that you made, that you are proud of, that okay, I'm gonna put this in my portfolio. The next project, this can go to my portfolio. The next project, and the next, and the next. And then sooner or later, um, even sooner than how old am I now when I get to become an art director, right? Some art directors are younger than me, some are older, so it doesn't really matter. Some art directors wouldn't even be a good art director, right? They're just good at being designers. So make sure you choose your path, and reaching there, you just have to go with the flow, however you want to go, and you're gonna reach there. I hope I answered your question.
I think it has. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Govinda. Okay, down to our last question. This is for all three of you. If you could impart some words of wisdom to yourself when you just started your path in the industry, what would it be? Maybe Emot could start?
Yeah, actually, when I started, I was very inspired by a quote from a movie in Kung Fu Panda. It's called "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today it's a gift." That's why it's called present. The reason I wanted to relate it to myself is that when I was in college, I wasn't really uh, doing the right thing. uh, but I'm not proud of that. It's just that when I graduated, my father told me, Emot, what are you gonna do with your life? With that kind of grades, what are you gonna do? So it actually hit me. And in fact, when I applied in Bigfoot, actually my father told me, don't apply in Bigfoot because that's a very big company. And he told me no one goes up without starting from low. And he said, no, I have a friend in MIPSA. Uh, I'm immediately hired because it's a friend of him. So, but still, I pursued uh, my passion. I said I wanted to become an illustrator. I wanted to be an artist. So I applied in Bigfoot. Govinda knows about this. The screening process of Bigfoot is it's very hard. I think I have done 3 exams, and we were down to 3 people. And then after the 3 of us, I wasn't hired. But a week after, they called me again because they were looking for an inker, and I was into architecture, and most of my artworks are inking, pen and ink. So that's why I get hired. So when I was hired, my father, I didn't told my father na I was applying in Bigfoot. He was so upset because I didn't go to that job that he referred me. And because I know I was already hired in Bigfoot. So when I was working, when the first day came to Bigfoot, I was very upset because I have no work. I didn't study well. Now I'm going outside, going home very late na. But he didn't know I was working in Bigfoot. After that, when Bigfoot gave me an ID, I think 2 weeks after, I went home, when I went to work, uh, ni-bless ko sa kong father, and he was surprised that I was working at Bigfoot. And I think every time I talk to my students, is I always told them, nobody can tell you what you cannot do except yourself. Not even your parents, not even your teachers, not even your girlfriend or whatever. So the only time you fail is when you stop. So that's actually my story.
A lot of words of wisdom from there. Wow, I'm feeling shivers actually. Thank you, Emot. What about you, Govinda?
It's a nice story, Emot. I didn't know that it was like that. Yeah, I think all the fathers or parents before would really want us to start like them, start really at the bottom. I just want to continue with what Emot was saying. So my father also wanted me to apply. When you apply before, you have newspapers you cut out and then you write them and then you drop your application letter. That's so old school. So so he wanted me to apply in that what was that, like canned goods graphic artist, whatever. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna go there. He said, no, you can't go top, you have to start bottom. And then I said, what if I can climb the stairs already, papa, or something? I know that I can reach it. So same as Emot, it's not that you don't listen to your parents, right? It's not like we're telling you the wrong signals now. It's just that better deep down, yourself better than anyone. So if you know that you can do it, then do it. Also, if I have to tell my younger self the path that I started, I just wanted to tell her that yes, continue with what you're doing. It will take a while, or you may get, get married along the way and get pregnant with four boys, but you're still gonna be creative in any way. So go ahead.
Or
Yeah.
just leap, right? Like leap into the void and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Thank you, Govinda. What about you, Yasser?
The advice that I would give to the younger me is to recognize the importance of personal branding and recognize it fast. Okay, because sometimes it's too late. When we're young, we think, the world is our oyster and we can do whatever we want and we can eat whatever we want and we can still come back from it. As we grow older, we realize that the personal brand is something that we carry along with us our entire lives. Oftentimes, we need to do a brand refresh sometimes when we realize that we're getting a little bit too old school. We need to refresh ourselves. Sometimes, if the industry in which we are in is getting a little bit obsolete, we need to move out. We need to do a rebrand. So I would tell my younger self, understand, recognize the importance of personal branding, recognize it fast, and work on your brand as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Again, really insightful and inspiring talk today, and it's just our first episode. Once again, thank you so much, Yasser, Govinda, and Emot for a really productive 1 hour actually, just in time. Well, all right. That concludes our first episode of our Career Talk series. Another episode is set on May 14, where we invite communication designers to talk about strategic communication in the modern world. Tune in for that, and we'll see you then. For any inquiries about SD plus C, email us at sdc1@su.finma.edu.ph. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day ahead. Goodbye.